Hey everybody, in this video I wanted to go through the 5 reasons why the Pokemon market has exploded since October of 2024. We have sold probably more than almost anybody on Earth in terms of graded trading cards over since that time. I'm not gonna give the exact number, but it's in the millions, and it's a lot of stuff. And when you sell that much stuff, you have a lot of data points, but not a lot of data points. You have a lot of kind of intuition. You're that in tune with the market. A lot of people tell you stuff. You hear stuff from people who have small collections, people who are casual collectors, people who just have one item, to people who have huge collections, millions of dollars, people who are just collectors, people who are just flippers, who are just investors, right? You hear from everything, you see everything, and I'm gonna give the 5 reasons why, because that's been a big question. It's like, why this is happening? Because, a lot of booms before, it's like, the 1999 boom, it's like, well, that happened because that was the start of it. 1996 in Japan, 1999, 2000, new video games, it was, the big thing. There was another big boom in like 2016, when the Pokemon Go came out and everybody was on their phones, and it was just kind of a craze, explosion at that time. Then 2020 happened, that was the COVID boom. People were trapped in their houses. They had a lot more money to spend, blah, blah. And this time, a lot of people are kind of left in the dark of like, there's no really like catalyst I see. But I think go over these 5 things. Some of them might be more, a weight on what's really happening, and some might be very small, and some might be big, much bigger than others. But I think after the end of this, you're going to say like, okay, that makes sense why it kind of happened, and especially during that time. So in October of 2024, the biggest thing I think that happened was Pokemon Pocket came out. And, a lot of you might say like, I don't even play the game, Pokemon Pocket. I never even installed the app. But if you just look at the sheer number of it and you compare it, if you just do the math, there have been, I don't think they know the exact amount of revenue it's making, but, all these websites, based with the analytics and the data, can kind of make an assumption of how much Pokemon is making on Pokemon Pocket. There are estimations to where like in February it passed $500 million in revenue, and it's almost approaching like $1 billion, and it hasn't even come out a year. So a lot of the estimates seem to point to the fact that it's making, in a year time span from October until this October, it's going to make over $1 billion. And their estimates, that's like well over $1 billion in revenue, and that's just from the app. I don't know how much it costs to run an app like that. I'm sure it costs millions of dollars a month, but still, that's unbelievable. If you compare that to the actual physical cards, I think Pokemon said they printed like 10 or 11 billion cards in the past 12 months, whatever they're, I think it was like May to May of this year, or April to May, whatever it was, a 12-month period. So let's say they printed like 10 billion cards. Let's say Pokemon is making, this is all just assumptions, but I think it's pretty, like I said, we're pretty in tune with seeing what the market is. I think we're pretty close to these numbers. Granted, plus or minus probably millions of dollars, but you'll see where I'm getting at. Let's say Pokemon makes, out of that 10 billion cards, 20 cents a card. You might be saying like, where are you putting that number? Well, actually that's high. But let's just say an average Pokemon pack, it's like 10 cards in a pack. Granted, they print a lot of promo cards that they throw in stuff. Some of the theme decks and decks they have 60 whatever cards, and then it's, cheaper, whatever. But the point of it is that let's just say they make 20 cents a card, because you say that means they make $2 a pack, 10 cards in a pack, $72 a booster box. Are they selling for $72 a booster box to distribution? The distribution, used to sell for like 90. Now it's, more, but, are the distribution really making like $20? It sounds about right. Actually, I could see that Pokemon charging distribution like $50, even less a pack. But let's just say they charge 20 cents a pack, or 20 cents a card, making $72 a pack. I think $72 a box, that seems high to me, but whatever. If it's 20 cents a card, that means, they are making, a little over $2 billion, on actual physical cards. So if the numbers are right, that means that, it's approaching a point to where they're making more off these digital packs that they don't have to print, they don't have to distribute, they don't have to, ship out, to distribution, they don't have to put in all these tins and Pokeball and these huge, cardboard boxes and plastic, and the storage, it's literally just on an app. it's very possible that even at this point right now, that Pokemon is making way more profit on digital cards than they are physical cards. For digital cards that have just been out since October of last year versus approaching 30th anniversary of the physical cards, insane. And a lot of and that came out in October of 2024. Kind of interesting, coincidence. And a lot of those people that are spending that much money on digital cards have to, a certain percentage of them have to want actual physical cards. And they're like, well, why am I spending this money on this? Let me just get the physical cards. Let me just buy that. And they get back into it. And then they're buying modern cards they're seeing on there. Like, oh, I like vintage. And, there has to be a large amount of them that are going from the Pokemon Pocket to actual physical cards. I think that's a huge one. I think a lot of people kind of downplay Pokemon Pocket until you see actual numbers. It's insane. It's truly unbelievable. Also during that time, I believe late September, early October of 2024, China loosens its monetary policy. There's a lot to go there, but China definitely had some kind of stimulus and loosening of the policy there. And we have sold in the past 12 months millions of dollars of cards outside the U.S. This doesn't, not even talking the U.S., millions of cards outside the U.S. And China's not a small part of that. It's not a small part of that number. And have you guys seen the new Chinese exclusive stuff that come out? I mean, the 5th anniversary Pikachu, whatever that was, I mean, that was like a $500 card, and that was $600, that's $800, $900, that's a $1,500 card. It's going up and up and up and up. These Chinese exclusive cards are worth a whole lot of money. The Mew that was not serialized, but it was like 1,500 or 1,510 copies, whatever it was, is sold for 5 figures. Very expensive cards. It didn't used to be like that. Chinese cards were not valuable, right? I mean, I know it hasn't been out for a long time. They'd had the Chinese base set and other Chinese sets, but I mean, it was like Japanese and American and English. That's where the money was. So it's a lot of money flowing in through there as well, I will say. So that's two, like, kind of, I think, like, immediate money that's coming in that's really affecting it big time. Another thing, and this is going to be more of a long-term thing, but it's happening right now, is that I think a lot of collectibles to thrive and actually grow and to actually build more of a base and more, into that, growth into the hobby, it has to pass generational tests. And, sports cards have passed that, obviously. Your grandfather collected the cards, and then your dad collected the cards, and then you collected the cards, and you went to a baseball game with your dad, and you share that, and you want to share that same thing with, your son, or if it's, grandmother, mom, it doesn't matter. I'm just putting an example that I had because, I, grew into sports because my dad liked it, and then, I liked it. It passes a generational test, right? If it doesn't pass a generational test, like, it doesn't grow at all. It doesn't pass down. It might be popular for a certain time and that's done, right? Think Beanie Babies. So it's like there and that's done. Like, you're not sharing that with, your children. Pogs, I'm thinking of stuff like that happened in the 90s around the same time as Pokemon. It's not passed down. You're not sharing it. It's just nobody cares. And Pokemon, I can say, is passing that generational test. We have, I can tell from the YouTube analytics and people I talk to and people see the collecticons and the analytics on Instagram and it's between 25 to 35 is the average the majority of people who, are consuming this kind of content are in between those ages. I mean, in between those ages, especially as this hobby continues to go down the line, there's a more and greater possibility that you're going to have kids. And that generation, I mean, we're approaching the 30th anniversary. Usually, the prime ages in like the late 90s, early 2000s, when you were really into this, was probably between, 5 years old to 10 years old-ish, before high school, in middle school, that kind of age. So those people, like me, and I'm the older part of it, I'm in my late 30s, I'm past that 35. they're starting to have kids, and those kids, when they're 1, 2, 3, they probably don't even care. They don't even know really. They're putting rocks in their mouth, at 1 year old still. But when they get to like 5 years old, and now that we're getting to that point, if you're 10 years old in the 2000, now you're 35. You might have a kid at 30, and now you have a 5-year-old. Those are going into kindergarten. Those are mixing with their friends and sharing hobbies together. I can tell you from having a 5-year-old and from being in seeing these school kids and seeing what they like Pokemon. They like it, right? They just still like it. It's passing. We're getting to a point to where it's like 20 years, 30 years to where the next generation has come in. It's passing that test. And that can't be understated. That's not like the boom happened and, it started happening big time in like October of 2024. And all the kids started, that's not right. But I'm saying like overall, this is a gradual thing. It's passing that generational test. This is I don't think, once again, people talk about that too much, but it's definitely a big, big, big thing. Number 4, so that was number 3. Number 4 is that, and people talk about that. I think people already know this, live streaming. It's a huge thing. People ripping packs for people. This wasn't a thing back, in 2000, 2005, 2010, people, going live and opening packs for other people. It just wasn't a thing. So with that, like community aspect of people going in and being kind of like a community member of that streamer and opening packs and supporting them, and there's just an absolute massive amount of things being opened, things being shared, things being, social media. It's a different ball game, and that is definitely something that is different now than it was back then. Now, did that happen in the past 6, 7, 8 months? No, I mean that's been happening for years, but it just keeps growing. I can say though, in the past year, 2, 3 years, gambling has become a much, much, much more prominent part of society at large. I don't know how much more prevalent it's become in outside the U.S., but inside the U.S., I mean, they used to not even, like, you couldn't even show a commercial of something gambling when you were watching a football game or, baseball game. They banned, it was just taboo to talk about it. And now they're, literally their stadiums are, about, they have the sponsorships and half the commercials are about gambling. It's all about gambling now. It's right on your phone and people are just like, it's become a cultural... I don't really like it. It's not something that's probably healthy for society at large, becoming a huge gambling focused society. It seems to drain a lot of money from the poor to the rich. It's kind of like the lottery system. It's just a whole lot of people filtering money to a certain smaller portion of society. But that's just the way it's if you've watched sports, that's what's happening. And that bleeds into sports cards, which bleeds into Pokemon, and it's pretty insane the way gambling has absolutely flooded a lot of markets out there. I mean, you can bet on anything now. It used to be just bet on the game. You bet on anything. Coin flips, what color Gatorade they're pouring, how long the national anthem is. I mean, you bet on everything. So it's become a huge part of society, and that paired with live streaming and the gamble of ripping a pack and the gamble of chasing a card or buying a slab and hoping it goes up. It's just this fuel of gambling, and hate it or love it, it's definitely become a large part of society and is fueling that on top of everything else, right? So that's number 4. Number 5 is, once again, something that's happened forever: the devaluing of the dollar. I mean, inflation is a real thing that happens throughout history. The dollar always is worth less. It's just the way monetary system, currency works, but the amount of inflation has definitely ramped up, and it's not a coincidence that same time this boom, Bitcoin is at all-time highs. Even all the bad news, like, the wars happening, the political instability, the economic instability with, tariffs and like that we felt from international consigners, all this instability, and everything's still at all-time high. Why? Because people don't want to have cash. Stuff is, it seems to be, now it might or might not, but perception is greater than reality a lot of times. The perception is holding cash is absolutely not the right way to go. You put it into assets, and as much as you possibly can. That's why the stock market, Bitcoin, stuff that is considered, to put into assets other than cash, and Pokemon and other alternative assets are becoming more and more a part of that framework of putting money into something else. As that continues, I don't know. People are flying to put their money into stuff that's not cash, and if people, the more people look at this, and the more people see prices increasing, and everybody, not only prices increasing, but it's like, oh, I actually like that too, not versus like, hey, I'm going to throw it into a stock that I have no clue what's happening. I can put it into, oh, I know this. Now I can put my money in this and I feel more in control, if that makes sense. I think that's definitely an allure that people are actually putting more money into it. So that's 5 reasons. I don't know why I just went, but that's 5 reasons that I think that the market has really accelerated. Not only, things that are long-term, like the generational thing, or the devaluing of the dollar, but actually more like, the amount of money that's flowing into like gambling, as pervasive as it is, or, live streaming, or Pokemon Pocket and the digital packs and the amount of money that's flowing in through there. I think that all of these put together are reasons why it's absolutely exploding right now. As for like, hey, when does it stop exploding? I mean, there are many ways it could stop. Outside forces, macroeconomic, right? I mean, it's just like people start losing their jobs. People aren't going to spend their money on Pokemon. It's just not, the average person might not be, super smart, but when the S hits the fan, as they like to say, people are going to be spending their money on food and shelter and, other essential things versus Pokemon cards. And you might be thinking, oh, COVID, people lost their, but they had backup, they had stimulus. They weren't spending their money on other stuff because they were forced to not spending money on other stuff. People will not spend their money on cards. That's a big one. Also, just, people can, I don't know, people are very fickle in what they spend their money on, and something becomes trendier or cooler, or people flow to that, money will flow to that. I don't even want to go down the Labubu. I don't even like saying Labubu, but doesn't that seem like Beanie Babies? Doesn't that seem like exactly like Beanie Babies? I don't know. But, when stuff, people want to spend their money on other stuff, and there's a hotter item, money will flow through there. And really, a lot of this is a self-fulfilling prophecy a lot of times on price, price going up in terms of these stuff. When people move their money to something else, and then stuff starts to go down, a lot of other people like to start to sell. And then it goes down faster. And then it goes down. You know what I mean? It becomes like, once something starts to go up, people want to put more money to go up. Once it starts to go down, people want to pull their money out and it starts to go down. It's why we actually really, really keep, wanting to grow this consignment business, is because, when the stuff is going up in price, great. People want to sell out. People want to cash out. People want to, put their money somewhere else because they've made, X amount of profit. So they want to, use consignment, someone to do the work for them and get that money for them. But when prices go down, same thing happens. People want to cash out. People want their money now, so that they can, either lock in profit and it doesn't fall away, or just lock in a loss and put their money somewhere else where they think they'll regain the money. That's a huge, huge advantage that we have in this business, is that the price of this stuff goes up or down, people are going to want to sell up or down. And, like I said, it becomes, something becomes more, the hot new thing, and people want to put their money in there and pull it out Pokemon. People aren't, FOMOing at vending machines or, at Costco's. They can go there, and then the price goes down, and everybody else kind of follows suit. But there's a lot of reasons it can go up or down, but I thought I'd just give you the 5 ways that, or the 5 reasons why I think it has gone up. And yeah, anyway, that's all I have for today. We are reopening in June 29th. I don't know when you'll watch this, maybe watch it well after, but yeah, we'll start seeing what consignments are there. It's going to be pretty exciting. Had a great break, and yeah, anyway, talk to you again soon.